Hello everyone. Today's session is operating systems. We have Professor Kali Funisa from HKBK. She'll be covering module 1 and 2. Over to you, ma'am. You can continue.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, students. I hope you are all doing well during this lockdown period. You must have already had a good session earlier from college. So the purpose of being here today is just to give you a small help regarding how exactly you will face this particular subject operating system 18 CS 43, which is offered in fourth sem, just to give you a crash course kind of a concept so that it would be helpful for you in the examination. So I will just scroll through some of the major aspects of this subject operating system. So I'll try my best to help you so that catch up with some of the you can catch up with some of the concepts, and that should probably help you in facing the examination. Next. So we will start off. Actually, I have been given three modules to cover: first, second, and third. As you all know, first module is all about introduction to operating system and system structures. And second is about multi-threading, and then you have CPU scheduling, and also you have synchronization. And third module you have what is called as a deadlock and memory management. So I shall take you through a quick glance of without going into much of details. So the first module, which includes introduction to operating system and system structures. So these are some of the things which I think we have to quickly discuss. What is operating system, organization, structure, operations, etc., and then process management, memory management, storage management, protection and security, distributed system, special purpose system, computing environments, and open source operating system. So these are some of the things wherever it is really important and which is actually very helpful from examination. I would be stressing more on that. So probably it would help you. Next. So we all know that operating system is well known. We all have learned that it acts as an intermediate between the hardware and the users. And since it's an operating system, it is acting as an intermediate. What happens here is it helps the users to access the resources. That's why it is probably called as the resource manager. Next. It is called as a resource manager, and because it helps in allocating the resources. So the purpose of this particular session is to provide you a tour of the major operating system components and some of the major aspects I shall be covering. Next. Next. Yes. So operating system, we are all well aware that maybe this kind of a question may also appear in the examination. You could just say in a very simple way, it's an intermediate between a user of a system and the computer hardware. And what are its goals? Because it's an intermediate between the hardware and the users, it actually executes user program, and it helps in solving the user problems easier. So as we all know, directly we cannot get into the operating system or make use of its facility. We have to in order to access some of the hardware facilities, we have to go through the operating system, which acts as an intermediate, and that's how it is making the computer system convenient to use. And it also helps to make use of the computer hardware in an effective manner. So that's why operating system has been in between the user and the hardware is always at the bottom, and on top we have the users, and in between it is the operating system. So probably you can remember this definition very quickly, and you can say that it's an intermediate between the user and the hardware. Next. Yes. Now, this is something which is very important. I think, along with the diagram, I think you should have a very clear understanding of this. What is an operating system, and what are the components on operating system? Or what is an operating system? What are the components of a computer system? So, this diagram has to be very well mapped in your mind, very easy. Now, since as per the definition, I said that operating system acts as an intermediate between the computer hardware and the users. Probably you can see the hardware is below, the computer hardware is below, and the next one is you have the operating system, and top of it you have what is called a system and application programs, and top you have the users. user 1, user 2, user 3, etc. up till user n. Now come back to the definition of operating system. Since it's an intermediate, what it is doing is it is helping the users to access the resources. It is helping the user to access the resources. So all the resources which are needed by the user can be accessed through the operating system. And apart from that, it also helps the user in giving what is called a system and application programs. That is, be it in the form of a compiler or an assembler or a text editor or a database system. Once all these facilities are given by the operating system, the user is quite happy to get all the resources and he will execute all the applications. So this is a diagram which has 4 parts. I think easily you should remember. That bottommost is the computer hardware, then next is the operating system, followed by system and application programs, and last on top we are all there. Since we are all users, we are all on the top. So this is a basic diagram of computer system. Next. Yes. Now, after having said that operating system acts as an intermediate, you can also give another definition. Can you go to the previous slide, ma'am? Can you go to the previous slide? Yes. So you can also I mean, incremental definition. So most of the students, when a question on operating system is asked, probably this would be the start. Would say it's an intermediate between the computer hardware and the user. Along with that, as far as operating system subject is concerned, you can add one more value to the definition by saying that it's a resource allocator. Very important. You should mention this keyword operating system as a resource allocator. Why? Because you all know that it manages all the resources. Whatever resources the user want, it helps in giving those resources, and it also helps in deciding resource use. Probably what happens, probably will be 2 3 users or n number of So this will end up in what is called as conflict. So conflict management is one of the very, very important. How this conflict thing is resolved? Maybe yeah, the each user are requesting for a resource maybe at the same time or at the different time. If they are requesting for a resource at the different time, probably allocation is easy. But if the resources are requested at the same time, we do have some scheduling criterias. Maybe it can be in the form of first come first serve, or there is something called shortest job. That is how it overcomes a conflict. So as of now, you could remember, helps it decide between resources so that it can or allot efficient or fair resource. The second thing is it's a control program. What is the meaning of control program here? It controls the execution of program to prevent errors and improper use of the computer. So it helps in preventing the errors. I think you have experienced in your laboratory sessions. You have gone through various operating system. You have this operating system preventing the errors, and also whatever resources we have. So it helps in operating system helps in giving those resources so that it doesn't get into what is called as improper usage of computer. So apart from saying that it is an intermediate, you could also add definition. You can say that the system is a resource manager. And second, you can also say that it is a control program. It is a control program. Next, it is a control program. Next. So operating system, it acts as a resource allocator, and it is also a control program. Probably 3 sentences you can easily pick up and you can write it. Yes, this is also a very important component. Most of the time, I think you are supposed to answer these kind of questions. Computer system architecture. Under this, there is something called multi-processor system, clustered system. So I shall tell you very briefly what exactly this is. See, if you look into the computer system architecture, once having understood the definition of what operating system is. So let's look into some of the architecture. So we will begin with something called single processor. So I think you are all well aware that there is something single processor, a system which has got a single processor. And when you have a single processor, obviously the advantages are less. The advantages are less. Advantages like, for example, the processing speed, the performance, all these things will be little less. So let's go into what is called as multiprocessor. Multiprocessor. So most systems use a single processor, and they have their own disadvantages. So multi means many. So multiprocessor, you can call them as parallel systems. Since many processes, you can call them as systems tightly coupled. And what are the advantages? What are the advantages? Increased throughput. It means you are able to do more work in less time. Of increased throughput. Throughput is more work in less time. And then economy of scale. Economy of scale. So economy of scale is it will cost less when compared to equivalent multiple single processor systems. So what is the meaning of economy of scale here? So if you understand the meaning, you can easily remember this. Economy of scale is it will cost less when compared to equivalent multiple single processor system. For example, you want to buy 300 pages notebook. 300 page notebook. Each 100 page notebook, say for example, cost 20 rupees. So 100 page, 100 page, 100 page, 20, 20, 20 means it cost around 60 rupees. So instead of buying 300 pages books, you can buy 300 page one book. Probably it will cost only 45 rupees. So rather than carrying 3 books to class, you could just carry one book of 300 pages, which cost even less, that is 45 rupees compared to 60 rupees. So this is what is economy of scale. Economy of scale is it costs less when compared to equivalent multiple single processor system. Increase reliability. It is reliable. Why it is reliable? If you know the meaning, probably you can catch up with the word reliable. Increased reliability here, it means since there are multiple processors, even if one process doesn't work, there are about 10 processors and one processor fails. Say for example, 10 processor, one processor fails. So then the remaining 9 processors will take the load and they continue to work. There is nothing like the system is coming down to a stop. It doesn't come. So 9 processors will take the workload and they distribute among themselves, and they start working. Among 10, if 2 fails also, 8 will do. Probably the rate of execution may be little lesser, but still they will try to distribute the work. This is called as increased reliability. This kind of a feature where, if one processor fails and the load of that one processor is taken by others, it is called as fault tolerant. All multi-processors are called as fault tolerant because they can bear the fault. They can bear the fault. They can bear the fault without even stopping. It bears the fault, and that is also called as graceful degradation. So in a very graceful way, distribution of work is done with whatever processors available, and that is what is called as fault tolerant. Please remember these 3 advantages. Multiprocessors are also called as parallel systems or tightly coupled systems. And advantages is increased throughput, economy of scale. Increased throughput is more work in less time. Economy is it costs less when compared to equivalent multiple single processor systems. And last is reliable. You simply don't say reliable, you should say increased reliability. That is also called as graceful degradation and fault. Question from the exam point. That is, one is asymmetric and symmetric multiprocessing. Asymmetric and symmetric multiprocessing. In asymmetric multiprocessing, what happens is each processor is assigned a specific task. And there is a master. This is a master. The master processor will control the system. The master processor will control the system. And this relationship is called as master slave relationship. Master will allocate and schedule the work to slaves. So asymmetric, please, master slave kind of a system where the master allocates and schedules the work to slave, and each process look to master for instructions, and they have their predefined tasks. So whenever you think of the word asymmetric, please remember Asymmetric is all about master slave. Master slave. Master controls the system, and the slaves will look for master for instructions, or they will have their own tasks. This is asymmetric. Now, symmetric. So next, me kind of a multiprocessor system where it is master slave. So is very
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
symmetric multiprocessing.
Excuse
Hello.
me, ma'am.
Yes. Hello. Is it? Yeah. Is it okay now? Yeah, I'm continuing. No, I'm to symmetric multiprocessing architecture. Here, what happens? It is called SMP. All processors are peers. You can see this CPU 0, CPU 1, and CPU 2. All these are peers. So that is why it is called as peer-to-peer relationship. It is called as peer-to-peer relationship. All processors are peers, and there is no master-slave relationship. Each processor will perform all the tasks within the operating system. It will perform all the tasks within the system, and it will share the memory also. So if you look at the diagram, symmetric multiprocessor architecture, it is a peer-to-peer relationship. Now, what is the difference between asymmetric multiprocessing and symmetric multiprocessing? Asymmetric is about it has a master-slave relationship. Symmetric, it has got a peer-to-peer relationship. Peer-to-peer relationship. So this is the difference between symmetric and symmetric. Can you hear me, ma'am? Hello. Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, ma'am. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Yeah. Next. Yeah, this is students. This is also a very important component for you to remember and for apply, remember, exam, whatever it is. So clustered systems. Now, for many of us, both multiprocessor and clustered, the dictionary meaning may look similar, but there is a lot of difference here. So just now I told you single processor, multiprocessor. Single, we all know it is single, so a lot of disadvantages. Then come back to multiprocessor. Multiprocessor, I told you the advantages. And then coming under that, you have asymmetric and symmetric. Asymmetric is master slave, and symmetric is peer to peer. Now coming back to cluster systems are with the word cluster itself is very clearly tells it is very similar to parallel systems as they both have multiple CPUs. Multiprocessor also multiple CPUs, and clustered also has multiple CPUs, but the major difference is cluster systems are created by two or more individual computer systems merged together. Merge means merge together. When two or more individual systems are merged together, they give rise to what is called as clustered. Basically, they are independent computer system with a common storage, and then the system work together. So the difference, the minimum difference between multiprocessor and clustered. Multiprocessor, as the meaning goes, it has got multiprocessors. Clustered is what happens. It is created by two or more individual systems which are merged together. Next, merged together. Next is we will the like multiprocessor. They also work together, and they share. Just now I showed you a diagram where the data is shared through storage area network, and advantages is high availability service. High availability service. Even in clustered there are two types, again asymmetric and symmetric. Multiprocessor, uh, also I told you asymmetric and symmetric, that is also one kind of a question. Here in clustered also it is asymmetric and symmetric. In asymmetric, what happens is one machine will actually has one machine in a hot standby mode. Of the standby mode means one particular processor, it doesn't do anything. it will only monitor the active server. It will only monitor the active server. So standard it will only monitor the standby node. Symmetric clustering means it will have many nodes running applications, and each one of them each other. Whereas in the previous one, HCI has only one. It does nothing but in case if the active server, then it will. Yeah. Now I